I'm going to start this victory pod off with a little metaphor. If the Sacramento Kings' 20-point win over the Houston Rockets is a rug, then the rest of this game has been brushed underneath it. I'm trying to feel more positive about this win than I am right now, but I can't help myself and be disappointed with how the Kings played a majority of this game, and I'll explain right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all regular season long. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports reporter and producer for ABC 10. And normally I like to be the positive and sometimes overly optimistic guy when it comes to covering the Sacramento Kings. But I find myself surprised at how many people, including head coach Mike Brown and Sacramento Kings players, are happy with this Kings win. Now, don't get me wrong. A win is a win, and it's a great thing to get a win on any given night in the NBA, regardless of the team that you're facing. But for me, watching all 48 minutes of this game here from the Golden One Center, I was not a happy camper. Now, the fourth quarter was excellent for the Sacramento Kings, and of course, we're going to talk about that and the many positives from this Kings win. But to me, the fourth quarter doesn't erase the overall, especially second and third quarters, struggles that the Sacramento Kings had. Their inability to pull away from the Houston Rockets, really playing down to the Rockets' level at times. This continues to be a struggle or a bad habit that the Sacramento Kings are trying to break, playing down to the level of your competition. And there was a conversation happening on Twitter, and I completely understand this conversation. People saying, how much is it the Kings playing down to their opponent's level, and how much is it the Kings defense being so bad that opponents offensively are able to play up to the level of the Sacramento Kings? It's an excellent question and an excellent point, and I think those of you who feel that way are absolutely onto something. There's definitely some of that there. But to me, watching the Sacramento Kings team play tonight, offensively, I know they're way better than what they showed. Even with how bad the Kings defense is, and we pretty much expect this on a nightly basis, although I will talk about the positive of how the Kings were able to slow the Rockets down, especially in the paint. The points in the paint ended up actually being pretty good for the Sacramento Kings defensively tonight. But we expect defensively the Kings to have their struggles. But offensively, we know this team is so good. They're number one in the NBA. They lead the league in points per game, taking on a Houston Rockets team that's second to last in the league at points per game. The Rockets averaged just 109 points per game. Now, they finished with 115. That's not monumental. That's 6 points more than their average. Okay, that's not the biggest deal on the planet, except for the fact that the Rockets had 95 points and the lead heading into the fourth quarter. I personally, and maybe I'm getting a little greedy, but again, I've talked about this on past Locked On Kings podcasts. I think the Kings are at a point now, especially at home against teams like Houston, where they can get greedy. Fans can expect more than what they saw out of the Sacramento Kings tonight. And even though the final score, 135-115, says the Kings won by 20, do not be fooled by that final score, because the Kings did not play by it like a team that blew out the Houston Rockets by 20 tonight. We've seen good teams in the past play these toy with your food type games, right? And we've seen the Kings many times over the last 16 years be the food that has been toyed with. Like, the Kings will hang around and they'll be in a close game against a good team for maybe 45 out of the 48 minutes, and all of a sudden those final 3 minutes the Kings just get chewed up and completely spit out, or at sometimes swallowed. Like, the Kings will clearly be hanging around because a team has allowed them to hang around. I don't feel like that's what this game was for the Sacramento Kings. I think the Kings were struggling in this game to create separation from the Houston Rockets. They were not playing at the level that they were expected to and should expect themselves to be able to play, and Houston was able to stick around, take the lead a couple of times, including heading into the fourth quarter. And when the fourth quarter came around, the Kings kind of woke up and said, oh, wait a minute, we're on our home floor. These are the Houston Rockets. We're the Sacramento Kings. It's time to handle business. And then they slammed the door shut in the Rockets' face and ended up winning this game by 20. I didn't feel like, even though I had the confidence this entire night that the Kings were going to win this game, I never got to a point where I was concerned that the Kings were going to lose. Truthfully, even with the Rockets taking the lead and it setting up like a game where the Kings were going to get kind of shell-shocked and walk out of this arena with their tail between their legs, and Kings fans were going to go to their cars angry. I didn't expect that. I didn't have that feeling that that was going to happen tonight. But at the same time, too, I didn't get what I wanted, which was a complete or close to complete Sacramento Kings victory and performance, the same thing that we got over the Orlando Magic a couple nights ago. Now, I said after that game, I didn't necessarily expect the Sacramento Kings to blow out the Houston Rockets in either of these two games that they're going to play against them, but I expected better than what the Sacramento Kings showed for 3 quarters. Fourth quarter was excellent. Again, we'll get into the offense, but I still feel like the Kings at times are struggling with the habit of playing to the level of their competition. Yes, their defense is letting them down, but their offense should be better in games like tonight, to where even if the defense isn't there offensively, they should look a lot sharper and a lot more crisp than they look like. It never looked like the Kings were operating at max capacity or even like 90% capacity offensively until they got to the fourth quarter. It's crazy to say that in a game where they score 135 points, but just watching this game, eye test wise, I know the Kings can be better than what they showed against Houston. And then, of course, defensively, we know how much work this team still needs in that sense. But okay, maybe I'm over-exaggerating. Maybe I need to chill a little bit. Right? Maybe I'm just trying to be a little too frustrated, or maybe I'm being a little too pessimistic when it comes to this Kings win. Because in the end, the Kings got the victory. In the end, the Kings are 4th in the Western Conference right now. So let's talk about the positives, right? And feel free to share, whether it's on social media. You can reach me on Twitter at MattGeorgeSack. You can email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. If you're watching on YouTube, let me know in the comment section. If I'm being a little too pessimistic, or I'm being a little too negative about this Kings victory, maybe I'm not giving the Rockets the credit that they deserve, or even not giving the Kings the credit that they deserve. If you feel that way, feel free to tell me, because maybe I need that reality check a little bit, because I'm really struggling to just enjoy this Kings win and forget about the frustrations that I felt watching this Kings team for 3 out of these 4 quarters. But talking about the positives, because we will focus on the positives here, that fourth quarter was excellent. Right, for the Kings to hold the Rockets to 20 points in the fourth quarter, outscoring the Rockets 41-20 in the fourth quarter, that's fantastic. Now, I know the Rockets are the worst team in the Western Conference. Like I said, the second worst offense in the NBA. It's difficult to hold a team to 20 points or less in a quarter, no matter who they are. So the fact that the Kings were able to do that when they needed to in the fourth quarter, essentially winning time, they took control of this game on their home floor. They showed me, at least for basically 12 minutes, what I wanted to see for 35 plus. So at least I got it. And when I got it, the Kings dominated. They absolutely dominated this fourth quarter, and it came from a couple different players, but in particular Trey Lyles, who I'm going to talk about in a little bit. The Rockets only scored, and I say only scored 46 points in the paint in this game. Now, it felt like a lot more, and it looked like it was going to be a lot more until that fourth quarter. In the first quarter, a little bit, but mainly the second and third quarters, the Rockets were getting to the paint. I actually asked Mike Brown after the game. I was still trying to weigh the positive and negative feelings about this loss, and Mike was very positive for the most part about this game. Like, he was talking about how pleased he was with individual efforts, how pleased he was with the Sacramento Kings executing the game plan. And one of the things that Mike shared with me was that he felt that the Kings did execute their game plan for the majority of this game tonight. And part of that game plan was protecting the paint more, closing the gaps, playing more inside out, and allowing the Houston Rockets, who again struggle offensively and struggle shooting the basketball, allowing them to get better looks from the perimeter than they were going to get on the inside. So the Rockets were having a decent shooting night from three-point range. The Rockets did use that long ball to stick around at times, close the gap at times. I think at one point the Kings were up by 10 points. I think it was either the second or third quarter they built a 10-point lead. It was the second time. It was the second quarter. They had gone up by 10 points for the second time in this game, and the Rockets hit 3 straight threes to cut that down to a 1-point lead. Like, the three ball was the Rockets' friend at times tonight when it has not been so far this season. So for Mike to share that he felt that the Kings defensively were doing what the game plan was, the Rockets just happened to hit shots, okay, I accept that, and I give the Sacramento Kings credit for that. And I appreciate the fact that Mike was transparent with that. No, we were trying to protect the paint enough to where we sacrificed on the perimeter a little bit and forced the Rockets to beat us out there. And at times, the Rockets were beating the Kings out there. So I appreciate that context. I accept that context and allow that to maybe make me feel a little bit better about how the Kings ended up playing in this game as a whole. But to hold the Rockets to 46 points in the paint after they held Orlando to just 42, I believe, points in the paint the other night, that's solid, considering the Sacramento Kings have given up 55, 60, 70, almost 80 points in the paint at times to opponents, not just this season, but during this homestand. It's nice to see. Also, the Kings' assist-to-turnover ratio in this game was excellent. 28 assists to just 9 turnovers. Again, the Rockets, not a team that is going to force a lot of turnovers, not a team that defensively is stunning at all, but the Kings did a good job taking care of the basketball, did a good job sharing the basketball. I can't delay it anymore. Let's talk about Trey freaking Lyles. 15 points in the fourth quarter. And going into the fourth quarter, again, the Kings were trailing. I think they were down by 1 or 2 points, something like that. It wasn't a massive hole, but they were trailing, and the way the third quarter ended, we weren't feeling very good, right? And one of the things I tweeted out right before the fourth quarter started, I said, I need someone to basically come into this fourth quarter and say, enough is enough, I'm taking over. I needed someone to do that. Most of the time, that guy is De'Aaron Fox. Right? We've seen how much he's dominated the fourth quarter. He's the most clutch player statistically in the NBA this season. So, sure, I expected, and maybe most of us here in the Golden One Center expected for De'Aaron Fox to be that guy. But it ended up being Trey Lyles. And the way he got himself going, he had a great shooting performance in the fourth quarter from three-point range. 15 points in the fourth quarter, like I said. But the way he got it going was actually getting an offensive rebound and going back for a two-point basket at the rim. That's what got him started. And Trey talked a lot in postgame about how he's been challenged to grab more rebounds and block more shots and do those intangibles. And Mike Brown has spoken in the past about how doing those things opens up your offensive game. And Trey even answered a question that I asked about. He said touching the ball, feeling the ball on rebounds, feeling the ball on block shots, getting my feel in that sense opens up my offensive game and allows me to settle in a little bit. It feels good to touch the ball, and then when I do catch and shoot situations, I'm feeling a little more confident. I'm feeling better about that shot. You're going to hear from both Trey Lyles and De'Aaron Fox in a little bit. But not only did Trey Lyles accept my challenge, as if I have that much power and that much sway over anything. It's like he saw my tweet. Yeah, right. But not only did Trey do what I was asking someone on the Sacramento Kings to do, he also accepted Mike Brown's challenge by crashing the boards. I think he finished with, what was it? Let's see here. I want to make sure I get this right. 7 rebounds. 7 rebounds for Trey Lyles in addition to the 15 fourth quarter points that he had. I think he finished with 20 points as a whole in this game off of the bench. Trey Lyles has been a sneaky, great pickup for Monte McNair. And remember, the Kings got Trey Lyles as part of the Marvin Bagley trade, and the main piece that we were talking about the Kings acquiring from that trade was Donte DiVincenzo. It was a multi-team deal, remember? I don't know how in the world Monte McNair managed to turn Marvin Bagley, who's hurt again, unfortunately, into Donte DiVincenzo, who, of course, is no longer a King, and he's in Golden State. That experiment didn't really work. And Trey Lyles, who has played really good basketball for the Sacramento Kings. This is his 11th game this season where he's scored double figures off the bench for Sacramento. Trey Lyles has been a really good pickup. He's made big plays in big moments, whether it's crashing the glass or scoring or just being a defensive presence. Trey has been super solid for the Sacramento Kings. A sneaky, great pickup for Monte McNair, and let me allow this to, or let me transition this into what's seemingly daily PSA, which is Monte McNair deserves a freaking contract extension. I have no idea, and I'm going to rant about this another time in the near future. I have no idea if Monte is the one saying he doesn't want the contract extension, that he just wants to focus on his work until this summer, and then they'll get that deal done. I have no idea what the situation is, but we're going into the part of the season where the attention shifts back to Monte with the trade deadline and everything. And I completely trust anything Monte's doing, and I wish Monte could go into this trade deadline period with the reassurance that the team believes in him, and maybe they have told him behind closed doors. I have no idea, but I wish he could go into that period with the reassurance that he was going to be the general manager of this team long term, and he could do whatever he saw fit. But let me get off that soapbox and again focus on Trey Lyles. And I also want to talk about De'Aaron Fox, because even though De'Aaron has been that fourth quarter guy, and he still was big for the Kings in fourth quarter, it wasn't just scoring this time though. De'Aaron scored 9 points. He was a plus 18 in the fourth quarter. 9 points scoring in a quarter is fantastic. 6 assists, though, many of which were to Trey Lyles. Those 6 assists in the fourth quarter were amazing from De'Aaron. And De'Aaron recognized that Trey had the hot hand, and De'Aaron was using the attention that's naturally upon him. Look, the Houston Rockets, they watch film. They've seen what he's doing in the fourth quarter. They're expecting him to attack in the fourth quarter. He used how they decided to defend him, how they were aggressively closing out on him to open up opportunities for Trey Lyles, and Trey was rewarding De'Aaron by hitting crazy shots all over the floor. 6 assists in the fourth quarter for De'Aaron. That is excellent. Now I'm going to play with for you a couple sound bites here. The first is Brendan Nunez asking Trey Lyles about Mike Brown challenging him to grab more rebounds. Trey has an excellent response to that. And then I asked De'Aaron about how coachable this Kings team is. Not just himself, but Trey, Keegan Murray, who's been challenged to grab more rebounds. This roster as a whole, how coachable they are. And De'Aaron had a great response to that.
Yeah, Trey, you've been rebounding the ball a lot more recently and seem to be searching that. Was there some specific moment that you kind of realized you wanted to do that more often, a conversation or anything?
I just realized, in years past I've been better rebounding. I started out pretty poor on that end of my game of rebounding, and coach, called me out in front of the group and asked me to, be better rebounding defensively. He said offensively I'm good at rebounding, but defensively I need to be better. So that and just holding myself to the standard of being a good rebounder. So just trying to go out there and, like I said, focus on those things.
You've talked about how coachable you are. Trey just shared being asked to get more rebounds. Keegan was asked to get more rebounds. Just in your perspective as one of the leaders, how coachable do you think this roster is?
I think guys want to win. Coaches aren't asking us to, and they've never asked me to go score 30 or go score 40. They don't ask Domas to get a triple-double. They ask little things. Be in early. Be the low guy. Box out. Keep your guy in front of you. They're asking us to do little things that continue to add up. And once all these things are stacked up, you become a really good team. So it's just a lot of details that they ask us to do, and guys who want to win are willing to do it. And I think we have had multiple guys be asked of different things throughout the season, and they've stepped up. So for us, we just have to continue to do these things at the same time and continue to build, and I think we'll be a really good team.
This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the #1 way to play daily fantasy sports, especially with the NBA. Let me tell you how it works. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they will go and score more or less than their PrizePicks projection. You get it right, you can win up to 25 times your money. And it's not just the marquee players. Of course, you could find the line for De'Aaron Fox, or in this game, the line for Domantas Sabonis, but it's every player. Maybe Trey Lyles. If you saw Trey Lyles' line tonight and took the over, you probably made money on PrizePicks. There's no competing against other people. None of those sharks out there who make money for a living defeating you, who just do this as a hobby or do this for fun. It's just you versus the PrizePicks projections. And they offer projections on any sport, including the NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college sports, men's and women's college basketball. There's soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, fighting combat sports like boxing and MMA, even disc golf, Euro basketball, cricket, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. They offer safe and fast withdrawals, and currently is operational in over 30 states and in Canada. If you're signing up for the first time, check out this deal we have for you. Use our promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. So you deposit $100, you get $100 for free. You deposit $50, you get $50 for free. Use that promo code LOCKEDON. They give you free money that you can then make money on PrizePicks. One of the storylines coming into this Kings and Rockets matchup was Keegan Murray versus Jabari Smith Jr., the 3rd overall pick in Jabari Smith, versus the 4th overall pick in Keegan Murray. Naturally, there's always going to be a comparison between the two, and even though the two are in extremely different circumstances, both are starters, one on a playoff team in the West right now, one on the worst team in the West. So it's comparing apples to oranges in a lot of ways, but just an individual matchup, and Jabari Smith Jr. spent a lot of time actually guarding Keegan. Keegan didn't spend that much time guarding Jabari, and yes, Jabari Smith Jr. did put Keegan Murray on a poster with a nasty transition dunk. But you know what, Jabari, you can have your poster. You can have your dunk, because Keegan is a starter and a valuable contributor on a playoff team as of right now in the Western Conference. And Keegan had the better night. 16 points, shot 4 of 13 from three-point range. I bring that up not because it's a good shooting percentage, but the fact that he took 11 three-pointers. I think he took 15 field goals overall. 11 of them were from three-point range, and also had 6 rebounds. And I put exclamation points by that because that's been the challenge recently from head coach Mike Brown. Mike, after the Kings lost to the Lakers, kind of called out in front of the media, called out Keegan Murray for having 0 rebounds in that game. The next game, he had 3 rebounds against the Orlando Magic. Well, before the game, Mike was sharing an interaction that he had with Keegan. Mike said he approached Keegan during shoot-around this morning and went up and asked Keegan, "Hey, Keegan, how many rebounds did you have the other night against Orlando?" And Keegan, I guess, gave him a cheeky smile and gave him a little comeback, which was more than 0, which I guess Mike got a kick out of. Well, tonight, he had 6. And that 5, 6, 7 range is exactly what Mike expects out of Keegan, even this early in his career with his size and his athleticism as that starting 4. And I think that's a fair expectation. Keegan Murray needs to be better on the glass than what he's shown. But to have 6 rebounds tonight, in addition to his 16 points, that's a very solid game. Jabari Smith Jr. turned in 8 points, went 3 of 8 from the field, did have 9 rebounds. So a little bit of a better job on the glass, and that's a little bit more of his game. Keegan Murray was better than Jabari Smith Jr. tonight. He's better than Jabari Smith Jr., period, at this point. Again, comparing apples to oranges, it's not that big of a hill to die on either way. Jabari Smith Jr., I think, has been the least impressive out of the top 5 rookies so far. I also credit a lot of that to his situation and the circumstances of the Houston Rockets. I understand why ESPN flexed this game or took this game off and ended up putting the Nuggets-Suns game, or rather the Nuggets and the G League Suns team, because they were missing, I guess, almost their entire starting lineup and multiple bench players. So I guess ESPN, you're happy that you got Nikola Jokic on. And maybe it was a good thing that the national audience didn't get to see how the Kings played for the majority of this game. But regardless, whatever. They made that decision. Doesn't impact the Sacramento Kings victory at all. I did want to talk about something that I'm more perplexed about than I am frustrated about, and that's Davion Mitchell's offense. Tonight, 0 points, 0 of 4 shooting from the field, 0 of 3 from three-point range. Had a couple of assists in like 12 minutes. Watching Davion Mitchell offensively, at this point I've come to the conclusion that Davion is being told not to attack, or the way they want Davion to attack is different than how I think he should attack. Davion Mitchell, at least in tonight's game and at times throughout this season, has not put the ball on the floor and tried to get to the rim. And I don't think he's doing anything wrong necessarily. I don't like the way that he's not attacking. I know he's capable of attacking, and he's become offensively kind of more of a catch-and-shoot three-point shooter than he has been trying to get to the rim, which, as we know, isn't necessarily his game, although we would love for that three-point percentage to improve. He's running the offense. He's doing what he's supposed to do. He's getting to the spots on the floor. He's rotating. He's still playing a lot with Domantas Sabonis and a lot of those dribble handoffs. And he's also spending a lot of time playing with Malik Monk. And when Malik Monk is on the floor, we see Malik as the guy that's usually attacking. So maybe that has something to do with it as well. I'm not going to say that the Kings are mismanaging Davion Mitchell or anything like that. I don't think it's that extreme. But watching him offensively, I just don't feel like he's being used properly. And I don't know if it's better for the Kings overall to not use him properly, even if it's harmful to him as an individual, or if the Kings and Mitchell need to work together to figure out how he can be more effective offensively for the Kings. Because I know offensively he can show more, and he's capable of much more than what he's shown this season. Defensively, we know he's great, and he needs to play because of the spark that he provides defensively. But offensively, I had much higher expectations for Davion Mitchell this season. He has not lived up to them. A lot of it is because of how he's playing offensively in the Kings system that maybe is just not complementary to the style that he needs to play. Again, it could be because Malik Monk is out there with him. I think he's capable. He's no De'Aaron Fox attacking the basket, but there's no reason why he can't attack and try and get to that mid-range game or get to the rim as much as De'Aaron Fox tries to do when he's on the floor. I would like Davion to try that a little bit more. But again, maybe just me being nitpicky tonight. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, including, of course, NBA basketball, college basketball, with the NFL playoffs ramping up here, all the way up to the Super Bowl with the fun prop bets and side bets, and, of course, game lines they have for that. Future awards, NFL award winners, NBA award winners. They have so much stuff like that. They even have, like, for combat sports, MMA, boxing, esports stuff. They have so much. And if you love sports podcasts, which I hope you do listening to Locked On Kings, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. They're the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Couple things before we wrap up. First off, I've shared in the past that I'm already calling this a failed homestand for the Sacramento Kings because they dropped the first two games. Again, maybe more of the pessimistic viewpoint than I should be at this point, but they've gotten it back to 2-2. It should be 3-2 when they're done on Friday against the Houston Rockets. Then they go on the road for the San Antonio Spurs, have a big matchup against the Los Angeles Lakers in Los Angeles, and then I think they have OKC again at home here in Sacramento. So even if it goes beyond, it does go beyond this homestand, there are plenty more winnable games here in January. Here are the improvements that I want to see out of the Sacramento Kings against the Houston Rockets on Friday. Three things. Number one, I want to see a more overall complete game where the Sacramento Kings are playing their style of basketball. I want to see closer to a 48-minute. Give me a 40-minute performance, Kings performance, where I'm like, okay, that's Kings basketball. Because if they do that, they should blow the Houston Rockets out of the water. And I would say the Kings gave close to a 40-minute performance in their blowout win over the Orlando Magic earlier. I think they're capable of doing that. That's number one. Number two, this kind of falls hand in hand with what I just said. I want to see the Kings put this game away earlier. I want to see them create separation earlier on in the game and sustain or maintain that separation. Again, like they were able to do against Orlando. I know recently this just happened, but that has not happened as much as Sacramento Kings fans would like to see, or at least I would like to see this team do over the course of this season. And then finally, I want to see the Kings showcase their strengths. I don't feel they showcase their strengths very much in this game tonight, or as much as they should. Defense is not a strength, so I'm not expecting them to showcase defensively, but showcase your transition offense, showcase your three-point shooting, showcase Domantas Sabonis a little more, who we haven't even mentioned. Domantas Sabonis finished 1 assist shy of a triple-double and actually led the Kings in scoring tonight. Like, showcase more of Kings basketball. You do that, again, you should win comfortably. Those are the three things that I want to see in the Kings-Rockets rematch coming on Friday night. And lastly, no matter how pessimistic I might be feeling about this night, how frustrated I might have been about the way the Kings played basketball tonight, we're 40 games into the season. We're one game away from being halfway through the season, and the Sacramento Kings, ladies and gentlemen, are 22-18 and fourth in the freaking Western Conference. If I had told you that, maybe this is how my mindset should be. I need to tell myself that. Don't be pissed off. Don't be frustrated with how the Sacramento Kings played tonight because, damn it, they're 22-18. They're fourth in the Western Conference, and we're almost halfway through the season. If I had told you that, if I had told myself that, we would be throwing a freaking parade before the season had even started. So that context is important to note. The Kings still have a long way to go, and I think it's only going to get tougher. You know, we've talked about the importance of picking up these wins at home right now and taking care of business right now, preparing for March and April when things get tougher and better teams that are behind you, like the Golden State Warriors or the Los Angeles Clippers or the Phoenix Suns, who have been there before, been there, done that. They know how to win during that winning time of the season. The Kings don't yet or haven't shown an ability to yet. It's important for them to build a safety net right now, but regardless, nearly halfway through the season, the Kings are playing excellent basketball, and all signs as of right now, again, a lot of time, but all signs as of right now point to this is finally going to be the year, and I'm so excited to be able to say that. The Light the Beam chants, we're back in the Golden One Center. That's always a lot of fun. The Kings crowd was excellent tonight. Unfortunately, they didn't get to showcase themselves on national TV, but they're great as always. If you were here, you're fantastic. I know if you're watching at home, you're just as loud. Those of you watching around the world, you're amazing. And listening to Locked On Kings, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for your support. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of the Locked On Kings podcast. Until then, my name is Matt George. You have been listening to Locked On Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.